but it's
only a specific type.
Yeah, and he hyper.
Mm-hmm.
It's like hyperized, whatever the word is.
And that reminds me, I keep saying that I have to read this book called The Warmth of Other Suns. It's basically like the movement and dispersal of black people moving throughout America. Because, you know, it starts in the South. But then, you know, people moved out to like LA, head up to the East Coast, head up to like the Midwest, Chicago and stuff like that. So it is interesting.
No, for sure.
I say that is recommended reading and stuff. So
I'm trying to get these comments out the way. So I tried doing that, but that didn't work. It's just, I don't know.
It'd be like that.
Hey, what's up, Kathy? Welcome to Woke Wednesdays, everybody. Welcome. So I'm reading the comments from here. So Young Globetrotter just got on. So we can go ahead and get started because everything now gets recorded and then gets put to the Instagram story for 24 hours. But we can go ahead and get started. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's Woke Wednesdays. We do this every single Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And tonight we're talking about a topic that's been in the news a whole lot. It's very relative to what's going on right now, what's been going on for centuries.
Yep.
So yeah, just kind of want to introduce this awesome guy right here. You getting love from Tati. So yeah, so you want to introduce yourself? Tell the people who you are.
My name is Xavier Greer. You could just call me Xavi. I'm a student at Florida International University, studying international business and supply chain management. Hopefully going into grad school for student affairs and higher education, stuff like that. And I'm an international student from the country of St. Kitts and Nevis in the Caribbean. And I am former FIU CSA consultant and current...
Not a consultant.
Yeah, that's how you gotta skirt over certain issues. Current FCSA president, the Florida Caribbean Students Association. So, and important, I am a UN He for She ambassador. So, you know,
what is that?
Specifically dealing with the UN's Women Committee, dealing with issues of equality for women, gender issues, and just trying to bring awareness for stuff for women when you're dealing specifically with education, political activism, and just some of the basic necessities that I think people don't understand for women and the privileges that are afforded to us just being men.
Yeah.
So,
and that's interesting when we talk about that too, because oftentimes as racialized minorities, you're not used to thinking of yourself as a privileged person.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's important because what we don't see, especially as men, is that we black and minority men, we speak to white people and explain to them that how do you not see this issue when we ourselves as minority men don't see the same issues that women repeatedly say.
Exactly. And man, I often get into that conversation with men, and it's like we don't get it.
Some of the simplest things. Like consent. Consent is one of the easiest things to me because it's literally ask, and if the answer is yes, continue. If the answer is no, stop.
Continue.
Go. Yeah.
No, yeah.
But it's as simple as that. Just ask.
Absolutely. So we can definitely talk about this all night. That's a whole nother episode of Woke Wednesdays. So Kathy's saying thank you for standing solidarity with us women. Yes, from Glitter Tart. My thumb is about to break the heart button.
Thanks for the love, Kathy.
So tonight we're talking about the intersection of sports and politics. Can sports be political? If so, why? We're going to talk about all this tonight. But we kind of want to start off tonight, and feel free to write comments, ask questions. Xavi is, as you can already tell, Xavi is extremely smart. Excited to have him on the show. So we're talking about the intersection of sports and politics. So where are we now regarding race and politics when we look at it through the lens of sports? And y'all feel free to answer Feel free to answer. What do you think about what's going on with people kneeling, people putting a fist up, people taking a seat during the national anthem? Feel free just to kind of write your comments, first impressions, first thoughts. And Zah, what do you think, man?
One of the first things that to address is the platform, and that's before we even get into what's happening. Is the mere fact that now we're dealing with a generation of athletes and entertainers that understand that they have been afforded a platform. Now, what they say there is very important, but the very basis of what's happening is people are using their platform. So,
not to say that other athletes in the past have not used their platform.
Yeah.
But we're kind of seeing this more on a more...
We're doing it with higher numbers.
Higher numbers, yes.
That's the thing, the frequency. Once ago, you had one or two athletes who are willing to always speak out on certain issues, but now we have a plethora. We have like numerous people who are willing to show their activism and stuff like that. And we also have people who, even if they don't show it, are willing to be allies in their platform. But
and the word ally is interesting that you're using it in this context, because black folks can be an ally to other black folks in a way, right? Because if they're not kneeling or necessarily doing it, and that's something we've seen in the when they're standing for the national anthem, people will be like this around each other. So it's not necessarily the act of kneeling, but it's more of a solidarity that is being kind of created right within that realm.
So
so the platform is very important. And now with this platform, that platform also intersects with big business, capitalism, money, millions upon millions of dollars.
Bees, no, we're talking big
Billions.
B's.
Yes, big B's. And I see some folks are just joining us. Feel free to let us know. Tonight we're talking about the intersection of sports and politics. So let me ask you this. There is a platform there, but many folks, I've heard them say, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, are saying that sports should not be political. This is not a place to be addressing this. I just want to be able to sit down on a Sunday, watch my football, and not think about race. I don't want to think about this shit. Like, I just want to watch my game in peace.
Yeah, I understand that. But with something like that, you start off with the very beginning of a privilege. The ability to simply say that, hey, all of these things are going on, all of these people are being affected in these ways, but right now, I don't care about all of that. I just want to stick to sports, which is a narrative that people always say, this stick to sports narrative. But the problem is, with all the activism, with all the use of their platforms and being outspoken, games still play. So this whole thing about the distractions and stuff like that still doesn't matter, because the games start on time. They still have scores. So the theory of I just want to watch football, the football's still there.
Yes.
None of these protests, none of these forms of activism stop that. It's still there. But just to kind of bring everybody up to speed in exactly what's happening is most recently, where we are now is what some people deem to be a culture war, which has been kind of stirred up by the president, Trumpito. He specifically spoke out about the NFL and players kneeling and locking arms and things like this, saying that at a rally in Alabama for something totally removed from the situation.
He's still doing rallies.
Yeah.
Like, you already won, dog. Like, why are you still doing rallies?
A president, he's still out here doing rallies. But he had to, as he said, rally the base around his cabinet and his administration. But he was basically saying that the owners need to get these sons of bitches out of the league. And is like, what are you talking about?
So now you're tying profanity, right? A pejorative, to a league that is predominantly black players.
Yep.
With most of the owners are white men except for one, Sean Khan, out of
Jacksonville Jaguars.
So most of the owners are white men. billionaires.
Yeah.
Right. And as we were kind of talking earlier, most of the coaches are also white.
Yeah. You're dealing with a sport where the athletes 75% black, but you start getting into the actual context of a football team, and you start realizing that certain positions generally have certain demographics, and also when you think of a football team, you think about the whole. You think about the NFL, this sort of seal with the letters in red, blue, and white. Like if you actually pay attention to the NFL logo and how it symbolizes, it tries to wrap itself in everything Americana and to this Americanness, and you trust the NFL. It doesn't come to the individual. So then you think about the team. The team is just a collection of people, but you know the head coach and the quarterback, and 9 times out of 10, they're both white. So,
real quick, let me just comment by Tati. When they say that they should only play sports, they, in quotation marks, usually those are privileged, are trying to silence the voice of a league of predominantly black players of a minority or minorities.
I totally agree with you, Tati, because the thing is, we don't tell a lot of other people to stick to what they do. We're not telling, let's use this example. Trumpito, he was a businessman. We didn't tell him to stick to business. We look at our teachers. We don't tell them just stick to one thing. We ask them personal questions. We don't go into every other industry and tell them to just stick to that. Don't tell us about your political views. Don't tell us about your feelings and opinions. But one of the biggest issues with athletes specifically, because coaches get away with it, they say what they want and just keep it moving, is people don't like athletes. They generally don't like athletes, and they especially don't like famous, well-paid black athletes. There's this connotation or stigma that people have about athletes being that they're always these overpaid people who just gloss through and slide through life to get to where they are, except understanding that athletes, the only reason they are at these points is because they are exceptional at what they do. So they're not paid because they're athletes, they're paid because they're an exceptional athlete. The same way how if you have a great engineer, you don't just pay them because they're an engineer. They get the big bucks because they're an exceptional engineer.
So let me try to address to this narrative of stick to sports. And we could add a little bit of criticality to that. If I were to tell someone just stick to sports, right? Sports is inherently political.
Yeah.
So if they were going to only stick to sports, then they would have no choice but to address the politics of race and for instance in this case, right? So even then, if we were just going to take it like that, we could also add a little bit of criticality and be like, all right, stick to sports. Okay, well, sports is inherently political. Since inception, when we talk about American sports, right, there were policies put in place to keep it segregated. Right? You look at baseball, there was a Negro League, and then there was the White League, right? Football, there was no integration into sports is pretty recent, within the past 80 years, right? That's someone's grandma, the past 80 years.
Yeah.
Right?
You have people still walking the earth who saw Jackie Robinson, like actually saw him start and try to integrate. Like those people, and not to say like they're just way up in the age and they don't remember things. They still work.
Yeah. And real quick, but political is a word that we're using a lot tonight.
Yeah.
So real quick, it can be defined in various ways, right? You can address it as, it can be defined as the intersection or the confrontation of the human body and the state. And when I say the state, I mean the nation state, federal government, right? When those two things clash, right? Human bodies and that, you could define it as, what I kind of look at it more right now is the contestation of power. The clash of powers. Who has power, who doesn't? When is power exercised, when is it not? Over human beings, over populations, whatever. So when we talk about this game being inherently political, it's that from from its very beginning, people were marginalized by race, by sex, by gender. This has been all part of the culture of sports and of other things, obviously.
And I think one last definition to add to political, to kind of further the conversation, is specifically that when we say something is politics or political, we are dealing with matters and policies that affect the governance of a country or state.
Yes.
And it's very important to understand that, because it is the process of getting into a position of power to affect these policies in government, or the process of governance of the people and well-being of these states. So just saying that something like, when people say like office politics, is understanding that localized environment because of the power dynamic. But on a state level, you need to understand we're dealing with policies and a lot more things than people just like to write off and say the second you mention race or you mention equality, that it naturally means you're dealing with politics.
Yes.
It's just that the mere utterance of racism isn't something that people fully understand or want to deal with without having this whole talk about politics, because it's uncomfortable. A lot of minorities have discussions of race without it having to be this feeling of, oh, this has happened in the past, how do you feel and stuff like that. We genuinely have conversations. Now, as you open up the audience, it gets a little bit more difficult. But specific to what's happening now, just to get back on point, is...
But real quick, does everyone understand what we're saying by politics? And if you disagree, please let us know that you disagree.
Yeah.
Because this is something that merits, I think, conversation, and merits an understanding to have this conversation that we're trying to have, right? About sports and politics. So if you get it, click on the heart. If you don't get it, feel free to let us know. Steph Rose is saying, "Zavi, you so smart." So definitely let us know if you don't get it. If you're misunderstanding that, I just want to make sure that we're being clear about what we're talking about, because this is very important, and this is nothing new. This has been going on for centuries, since forever.
The person who I will credit as the beginning of all of this is Colin Kaepernick. A name that...
We're talking about the NFL.
Yeah,
the
specific
NFL.
to the NFL.
Specifically the NFL, yeah.
Because if we open it up, contrary to what a lot of people believe, the WNBA might be the only league who's been pushing the envelope on these issues up until Colin Kaepernick. And even after they've done stuff. But when you have Black Lives Matter, it's WNBA players were the first ones to go before a game in these shirts.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, when the Eric Garner incidents and stuff like that, they actually vocalized stuff like that. They showed up in shirts saying, "I can't breathe." The women in the WNBA have stood in solidarity against a lot of things before we've even gone into the NFL, the NBA and stuff like that. And they didn't do, and it sounds weird, but the argument of unity is one that I don't agree with in these types of situations, because
what do you mean the argument about unity? What do you mean by that?
Specifically, what happened last year also, we had the NBA players, Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James, and a few others. They did a presentation at the ESPYs, speaking about that this is a time when everybody should come together and we should unify and we should love each other. But the issue isn't about you loving me. You don't have to love me. What I expect from you is to have humanity and human decency to afford me the necessities for me to live a proper life.
Not even just live a proper life, just live.
Yes. So just live sometimes.
Just live sometimes, right? You talk about Eric Gardner.
Yeah.
The man he couldn't breathe. So just...
While vocalizing it.
Well, while vocalizing it, yes. So just even the ability to live. Grant me my humanity.
In
essence.
And that's the thing. I don't need you... Well, for me personally. I can't speak on everybody else. I don't need you to love me I need you to respect me as a human being and afford me just these basic decencies.
And what you're getting at too is something that's been a narrative that's been created with so many people. It's become hashtags, signs, love, not hate, love, not hate. It's not about love and it's not about hate. In essence, it's about granting humanity, which is also, again, your humanity is tied to politics. We are not inherently, because this is something that's been applied to us, very socially constructed.
Yeah,
I would say that we are all politicians, in the sense that we are political bodies, right? A white body can walk outside with certain, they don't have to worry about certain political consequences. As another body, a man can walk in certain places without having to worry about certain political consequences. So we are, in ourselves, I think, politicians in a way. We are political beings that very much attract political consequences because of that. Real quick, some of these comments. Glitter Tara is saying, I didn't know that at all. I think that says something in terms of gender and what athletes are reported on. You want to read some of these?
Yeah. Asakela said that, and football is glorified more too, yet. The WNBA may not have a large enough platform to be a threat. The NFL, on the other hand, we do know that the NFL is one of the biggest leagues. We're talking about the Go.
I'm not sure what you mean by that, Kayla.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the WNBA was kind of started this political movement.
They're the ones who really push it to the government funding patriotic assemblies. Yeah. So the WNBA was doing these things. Where it got interesting, as somebody said, the platform for the WNBA is at a certain level. You take that to the NFL, a sport that, in a sense, owns a day in the week. And the day that they have settled on is one that is tied to a religion, which has led to the creation of this slogan, this theme of, in the South, football is a religion. We're dealing with, on Sunday, church, food, football.
I remember we had, in North Carolina, we had service one time on a Sunday evening, the day of the Super Bowl. There was nobody at church. Nobody. People, prefer to watch football. The point is that football is a serious matter that attracts billions of dollars. Was it a couple $1 million to have a 15-second commercial during the Super Bowl? So this is a multi-billion-dollar industry that we're talking about.
And as much as we want to call it an industry, everything is so closely tied with football that I say it's an institution. It's an institution with many arms and legs all over the place.
Sure. That's a
but
good point.
They all come under the NFL and its foundation of, we have Sunday, we have the money.
Yeah.
And then they started spreading. Thursday night, they try to put games on. But I tell you, the NBA ain't having that. No getting into like my own sports beliefs. Thursday should be done with. But they also have Monday night. Like, the NFL is huge. And among all of this, what people don't know is the anthem and stuff like that, before the games being televised and stuff, that has only really started happening since 2009. So
The Department of Defense.
The Department of Defense started shilling out, specifically between the years of 2012 to 2015, they spent $60 million on promotion and marketing with the NFL. Specifically, $7 million of that came out of taxpayers' money, and funnily enough, 2 Republican Senate members, John McCain from Arizona.
Arizona of all states.
Yeah. John McCain from Arizona actually brought it up, saying that these funds of taxpayer money was used inappropriately, and he coined the term patriotism for profit. So before we even get into everything else, the NFL was charging the national defense and the Army, Navy, all these people who are honored, they're charging them to even be there and be honored.
And part of it is to recruit people to join the military.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we have this hyper visualization of the flag. It's ceremonial. It's very ritualized.
Yeah.
Right? To the point where it's become, quote unquote, patriotic. Right? And that's when players were beginning to be forced to kind of come out, or not even forced, but it's kind of became a thing.
So that's something that's a bit of misinformation is happening right now. There isn't a rule saying that the players have to stand for the anthem in the NFL. It's in the NBA. It's not in the NFL. It's in the operation manual that players should stand for the national anthem. So before we even get into all of that, it's not a rule. It should happen based on the operation manual, which states how things should be going.
It's recommended, right? And it's become more of a tradition. And something that we know about traditions, at least in this country, is that they can become very dogmatic and very dangerous. When it comes to certain populations. Tradition is kind of a way of, kind of a scapegoat to take someone's humanity at times. Kayla saying, yo, truth, every Sunday the pastor mentions who won and pokes fun at the losing team, and I'm like, I don't care, but I try to laugh along anyway. And under Kayla saying what they're doing is a type of nationalism.
Yeah.
Promoting and embedding this type of nationalism. Yeah.
So, at the preseason last year, the 2016-2017 NFL season, Colin Kaepernick was the backup quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, sorry. Giants is a baseball team. But
there's a New York Giants football team.
Yeah. They suck. I'm a Cowboys fan. But the first 2 preseason games, he was sitting. So while everyone is standing ahead, Kaepernick was just sitting in the back, just chilling. Like the anthem was playing and he was just there. The third game, he knelt. Why this is important is because between there you had an ESPN NFL writer actually asked Kaepernick himself.
Real quick, Zabi. This is 2015?
2016. So last year.
So real quick, why did he sit in the first place though? So that's
what I'm getting to. The reason why Kaepernick, and when the reporter asked him like, hey, realized they weren't standing for the national anthem, what's really going on? And that's when Kaepernick came forward and said the reason he is not standing for the anthem and for the flag and this ceremony is because at this point in time he doesn't feel like those ideals that we are singing and we are pledging to and what this ceremony is representing, it's effectively working for everyone in the country. He specifically spoke about inequalities in America, specifically the oppression of black people and racism institutionalized, and the inequalities for basic survival and the economic impact this has had. So it's very...
And police brutality.
So when you look at it, he's specifically saying, I'm not in a space to stand for and pledge to the freedom and liberty of the flag and the country on a whole right now, because I'm seeing a whole lot of shit going on that isn't being fixed and no one is trying to fix it. I'm seeing police brutality, institutionalized racism, and inequalities across the board with no attempts at trying to solve these issues.
And understand too that someone had to ask him.
Yes.
It's not like he was militant about it, right? The fact that I'm going out and I'm about to tell everybody what's happening. It wasn't like that, right? It wasn't like that. If anything, he's kind of shown to be a very shy person. Kind of keeps to himself a lot. Someone had to ask him in order to know what was going on.
Yeah.
Right? And the reason he for the first 2 games he sat down.
Yeah.
Right? Then he started kneeling. And that came out of...
Yeah, so with the kneeling, he actually spoke with military officials, veterans and stuff like that, and he agreed with them to compromise, and he says to show deference to the military and the people who are serving and fighting for his ability to even express these views, he's going to kneel.
Yeah.
So before we even get to know when kneeling is seen as disrespectful to the military because of how the flag is treated and how they've wrapped so many things in the flag, Kaepernick was kneeling to show deference to them and agreeing with them.
Yeah.
I
want to read some of these comments.
Yeah. So.
All right, Randall.
I'm just glad we all have the tradition of standing at home when the national anthem plays before these games. Randall, you're actually getting into something interesting, which is people, while the players are kneeling and locking arms, booing and shouting and saying all types of expletives. So they're holding the players to a standard that they themselves are not doing. Giants all day. Now Tati Giants trash. Right in that trash can. Yep. Giants ain't even win a game since the calendar turned, so I ain't even talking about the Giants. With liberty and justice for all, he's right. Everyone isn't liberated, and justice is not available to all people. Did y'all see that meme where a guy looks like Kaepernick? The pic was taken in the 50s, and he's getting arrested for protesting, and the policeman took the flag from him.
I didn't see it. Not yet. I'm sure I'll see it soon. So he's protesting, not the flag itself, not the national, not a song, right? What he's protesting is the message that is being purported, right? He's saying that this is hypocrisy. These things are not aligning. You're preaching one message, but you're not abiding by that, right? And at this point, so police brutality, real quick, is an American thing. Yeah, I will say that, right?
As Ta-Nehisi Coates says, right. Is the police brutality isn't just simply the shooting of unarmed black people in that situation. Police brutality is this war on the black body. It is this notion of policy enforcement, from redlining to specifically making sure that black communities are forced to abide by certain rules and structures that aren't happening everywhere.
And I'll even take it further back. When slaves in the United States, right, were granted emancipation, right, when they were freed, right, and I use that in quotations because we could still argue that they haven't been freed in a way, right? But what I'm saying is that, so imagine being a slave, right? You've been a slave your entire life. For centuries, you've been a slave. Where do you go when you're granted freedom? Where do you go now? Where do you go? Right? You have nowhere to go. My point is that during that same time now, you're told you're free, leave, go somewhere. You have nowhere to go. You have no money. You have no house. You have no. Everyone that you know is black, and they have no home. They have no family. So then you start this thing in the South. Police in the South. And when I say the South, I'm talking about the South, right? North Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi, all these southern states. The police came out of this idea of slave patrols. And most people were being arrested and sent to jail for vagrancy, for being homeless. So this brutality upon the black body has been going on for hundreds of years. Yeah. Right? And this is now just, one of my frat brothers always says that we've traded the noose for the bullet. Right? So now this is what we're kind of seeing, this evolved form of brutality on black bodies. Right? So this is what Colin Kaepernick is really doing, right? Getting at something that has been going on for centuries. Yeah.
So, let's just run through the comments before we continue.
Let's see. That is saying, and what's crazy is that kneeling is against the flag code in the Constitution.
Oh, isn't.
Or, sorry, isn't. Yeah. But they hold horizontally, which they do every game is. So, yes, holding the flag horizontally is against the flag code. Flag code, chapter 10, I believe. Yeah.
A whole lot of flag codes. We might get into that, too.
Yeah, and Kayla's saying black farmers are treated as indentured servants, basically. Yeah, that's right, post-emancipation. Yeah. A good documentary to see is 13th on Netflix, if you have Netflix. Phenomenal. Ava DuVernay did a great job directing that, so check that out if you haven't seen it. But yeah, so this is what Colin Kaepernick was doing, right? We had the third game and ongoing where he starts kneeling.
So, in response to that, a lot of people, as usual, they still don't target to his words. His words were very clear. He is kneeling because of these inadequacies in America. So because he's seen these things and there's no attempt at trying to solve these issues, they are literally going against the very notion that they're pledging to and ceremoniously acting in. So,
and he was also attacked on a personal level.
Yeah,
because he was
adopted.
He's half black too, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's biracial, and he was adopted by a white family.
Yep.
Right, and a lot of folks are saying that he should be
grateful.
He should be grateful. He shouldn't be acting like this. You know, a lot of just racist undertones that were just being thrown around.
Mm-hmm. But one of the biggest things that was happening throughout this process is people saying, "Oh, I don't have a problem with what he said. It's how he said it." So we had three things happening. I don't have a problem with what he said. Is that he did this way to say it. Then you had the people who said, I didn't even hear what he said because he was disrespectful to the anthem and the flag. And then you had this third tier of people who was saying with Kaepernick that what is he going to do now that he's brought it to light? So,
and people were saying too that he's just trying to get attention.
Yeah.
Because he's not playing. Now he's a backup quarterback. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He's just trying to get some attention. He's just trying to get some playing time. That's what they kind of tied it to. They didn't think he was for real about it. So,
the way Kaepernick himself kind of dismangled this whole process by one, what is he going to do now? Kaepernick pledged $1 million of his own money to different causes, grassroots organizations. He's helping convicts, recently released convicts who are in halfway houses and stuff like that. Kaepernick himself has been donating suits and attempting to have organizers help these people set up interviews, because, you know, when you're going to the prison industrial system, you get labeled, you come out, you have difficulties re-entering society. So he's trying, you can't vote. So all of this, he's trying to help with that.
And he's going around the country having conversations with children, teaching them about interactions with police officers. And that's another thing. He also did not say he was anti-police.
No.
He did not say, I think police officers are horrible people. He did not say anything like this. He's saying that we have statistics to prove this, where disproportionate numbers show that black bodies are being targeted, right, by police officers. So I want to be clear about that stuff, because he's not saying he's anti-human beings. He's not saying he's anti-flag. He's getting at a message.
But that's the thing. He's actually pro-America and pro-human life. If he's for these things, he's for the equality. He's against brutality, and he is expressing his views, opinions, and using freedom to do these three things. So this kind of brings me to two things that Kaepernick is doing. One, which, as we spoke before with James Baldwin, he's saying, because of the love of America is why I am not silent. It is why I critique her mercilessly. So because you love America, or you want the best for America and the people in it, you should be able to point out the inadequacies, the falling and the sharp points that we have, so that we could fix these and become a better nation. And also, because people had so much issues with Kaepernick and what he said and how he said it, it reminds me of Bob Marley and the Wailers, and specifically something that Peter Tosh said. And this kind of encompasses Kaepernick's plight specifically, which is, when everybody else is asking for peace, Kaepernick was asking for justice. So everybody else wants this unity, this just love everybody, and Kaepernick was saying, I just want justice. Peter Tosh, if you want to look it up, he's a legend. But that's how I look at Kaepernick, because he was very direct. He said exactly what he was thinking about, and then he followed up with it. So I think, honestly, he should challenge those people who said, what are you going to do now? And ask them, what are y'all doing now?
So you said something that people are having an issue with what he's saying or what he was doing.
How he did it, yeah.
Or how he did it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about James Baldwin. So James Baldwin also said, right, that a white man will say, "Give me life," or "Give me liberty," or "Give me death," and he'll be applauded. He'll be extolled. A black man sits here and does the same thing, and he's vilified and he's dehumanized. He says the exact same words, right? So to me now, it's not about the way he did it. It's not the message. It's not what he's doing. It gets down to him being a black person, right? If we had a white person doing this, maybe he wouldn't be getting the type of reaction, right? So that's, again, it is inherently political. It is inherently racial. The idea of sports and the idea of humanity.
So just to kind of add a little context to that before we get to the comments, is specifically when we're dealing with Kaepernick. One of the people that a lot of his detractors like to bring to light is this guy named Pat Tillman. He used to be a safety or something, a linebacker for a team in the NFL, and in 2002 he gave up his job as an NFL player to be enrolled in the troops and stuff like that, to go over to Iraq and fight the war in the Middle East. Eventually, through this process he died and stuff like that, and he is held up as a symbol of, look at this person who left this job to go and do their civic or civil duties in another country and fight this war in the name of America. So I bring him up because people are able to not be for the war in Iraq. They could be against the war in Iraq, but also be honoring Pat Tillman. In the case of Kaepernick, people are against him protesting while saying, "Oh, I don't have a problem with his message." So for me, it's like, no, you do have a problem with the message because he said it. You know what he said. You're still not doing anything.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because you might know more about this than me. Randall's saying, I think it's important to acknowledge Cap's pig sock stunt, and at the same time acknowledge his regret over these socks. His messaging wasn't always on point. He made some mistakes, but he also owned up to them. How often do you see that without PR getting involved? What pig sock thing?
I think it was at a press conference or something. He was wearing socks that had pigs on them, and the pigs had like a police hat on them. So, which is interesting because we have multiple Major League Baseball teams, football teams that will wear a Native American caricature on their helmet, right? The Redskins. Yeah. I don't know if y'all know what call that team name no more. That's a team up in Washington.
I don't even know if y'all know what the Redskins, that terminology, what is it's referring to. It's not that Native Americans had red skin. So it was when Native Americans were being scalped. You would scalp them, right? Killing them, and that was the red skin that they were referring to. So this is an extreme invective, just pejorative, racist epithet that has been co-opted to make billions of dollars, right? So while I think Randall's making the point that the Sox did not get PR, PR didn't get involved, and people didn't, accept his apology.
Yeah,
we have something like the Redskin. Even worse, we have a president, right, that has been anti-humanity, which in a way is anti-American. So to me, the real un-American would be the president as opposed to Kaepernick.
Yeah. But in this situation, I want to specifically go along with what Randall's saying. The pig socks was not good. I don't think Kaepernick is specifically using like PR people and stuff like that. I think a lot of this is his own beliefs and his own understanding. I wouldn't do the whole pig socks and stuff. I just don't do the pig thing. But yeah, that is a misstep, and he did own up to it. Whether people believe him or not, he still was able to acknowledge it and own up to that. I think is a misstep. It's not a misstep, but it deserves a huge level of nuance.
Yes, but the accountability is different.
Yes.
And that's what I'm getting at. The accountability is different for Kaepernick than it is for someone who was running for the president position, right? So that is, yes, well, I agree with you that was a misstep perhaps. Accountability works differently for different people.
Yeah.
Different people are wholly accountable on different measures, right? And we can attribute that to gender,
but
class,
that's two things.
money.
Three things that I always say. You need it when you do. That's basically accountability, respect, and insurance. There's stuff that you have to work on and have ready, and it's only at the time when you need them you realize how important they are. But let's continue with some of the comments.
That was it.
That was it?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay. So, my thing with this issue with Kaepernick is and what makes him different from everybody else who's doing it now is the fact that Kaepernick didn't ask for permission. He didn't wait until the NFL had to go through their law books and see what they could do. He didn't speak with the coaches before. All of this happened. He did it. And a lot of other players are doing it now, and they're on terms, they're now doing it for similar issues. Some aren't, some are. But specifically...
So let's build up to that. So now where we are is that Kaepernick does not have a job.
Yes.
Right? So
he's being blackballed.
So that season happened, and he was still on the team. He wasn't fired necessarily, right?
Yeah.
So then what happens with this season that started? Because we're going to get to that, the fact that more people are kneeling down.
So throughout the season, well, actually, nothing throughout the season. After this issue, we had maybe 1 or 2 games of actual coverage of this situation, and it went away. Players who actually in the locker room said that because of what Kaepernick did, brought them closer together because they were able to have these kind of conversations they don't usually have. As I said earlier, an NFL team has like 60 to 70 people in rotation coming in. There's an offense, there's a defense. They don't always do the same things together. Even within your side, you're still doing stuff with people who are in your own area. So what a lot of the players said, whether they agree with him or not, they said that this was an opportunity for them to share their opinions, ideas, their ideologies, and come to an understanding of each other, and that allowed them to come together closer. This whole notion real in a sense because 2-3 games after, the media wasn't having this circus around is he gonna stand or not. Yeah. Everybody moved on, the team played. His head coach at the time, Chip Kelly, who was recently fired from Chicago because of this perception that he does not know how to deal with opinionated black athletes. He was the head coach for Kaepernick. He said there was no issue with him and dealing with Kaepernick. He said Kaepernick explained exactly what's going on, how he feels about the situation, what he's going to do. And then he was like, okay, I understand. And they went and they played the games. After the end of the season, what people don't fully understand is not even that Kaepernick was fired. Kaepernick chose to opt out of his contract because he wanted a change in environment, because he wanted a new situation, not even for all of the protesting and stuff like that, specifically for football terms. So if you love the narrative of stick to sports, he left because of sports. He wanted a new situation on a new team. So he left a contract with, say, about $14 million. He left it on the table saying, I want a new situation. I'm going to see where else I could play. After that...
He wanted to start.
He wanted to start, but he had the confidence in his skills to say he would even be a backup and then try to work and aspire to this job. So Kaepernick left his job, left that contract, and throughout that whole summer we had guys who are worse than Kaepernick. This is not up for debate. The numbers support this notion that they are worse than Kaepernick.
Historically, the numbers have shown that they are not as good as Kaepernick, right?
So what you had is a lot of people kind of trying to use this scapegoat, saying that, oh, the reason that Kaepernick isn't on a team is because of his talent. That can't be seen. Kaepernick has a touchdown to interception ratio of 4-1. You know, for those who don't know football, basically Kaepernick could help you score 4 times before he accidentally gives away the ball to the other team. He has a better passing rate, the percentage of completed passes. All these things are things that he's categorically better than other individuals who are afforded jobs before him. Something that we could also speak about is the fact that a lot of the guys who are getting starting job or backup jobs, they're white guys. So you don't have much black quarterbacks getting a job before.
How many? Do you know how many black quarterbacks there are in the league?
In the league right now, definitely on the 10. E.J. Manuel, Cam Newton. We in lower numbers, but that comes to the sort of institutional racism that you have in football, starting with college football, where they begin, not even college, high school, where black players that are operating in positions such as quarterback, then deemed mobile quarterbacks, basically saying that they don't have the intellect to go through the process like a white quarterback would be, that all they do is use their natural athleticism to score and help the team. So then you have to build around that as opposed to the traditional passing notion. That goes from high school to college. College, you have a whole lot of black athletes on a team. You don't have much black head coaches and coordinators because generally they don't prepare black players to go into these kind of areas. And then that goes into the league where they say that, oh, we have this long history of you being a running quarterback as opposed to a throwing quarterback, and that's not what we want to do. We want to throw the ball, you run. The system isn't best for you.
And you also said something prior to the show starting. You were saying that about 75% to 80% of players are black players.
Mm-hmm.
But that is not reflected in the coaches.
No.
Right?
In specifically football, you're dealing with a labor force. This is the thing. We're going to address this more as a market, seeing that is a free market where people get paid for their talents. You have a labor force that is 80% black. Yet you have middle management and top level management that is 90% white. This is happening while there's a rule currently called the Rooney Rule that means that you have to at least afford an interview to a minority coach. So every time there's a position that opens up, you have to have at least one minority coach, whether it is of black or Latino descent. But they kind of exploit this by just repeatedly calling the same guys up for the interview while they already have someone in mind. So they just have the interview even though they know they're not going to hire the person. But what you find is the dynamic on football teams is the black people who make it to coordinator positions, generally they put them in defensive coordinator positions because of the feeling that they could have a concept of what the defense should do, and the black person, I like to refer to them as preacher man. They come in, they rally the troops, they have the prayer and stuff, and they give you that energy, and you go out and you just do your thing, as opposed to an offensive coordinator who is very strategic and looking at things one by one, and the X's and O's more intellectual. So they kind of try to steer black players into defense as opposed to offense. And then head coaching jobs go mostly to offensive coordinators, and because you're not even allowed into that middle management, how are you going to get to top management?
So Instagram kicks us off after the first hour, right? Even though we still have about 4 or 5 minutes. I want to get into the next part of this, and I want to give us some time. I don't want to get kicked off in the middle of it. So we've kind of laid the foundation.
Yeah.
For Kaepernick, for reasons of people not agreeing with his forms of protest, why this is political, why this is racial.
Mm-hmm.
And now in the second part of the show, we want to get into more as what's going on now, right? We saw that other players kneeled. We saw that Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, also kneeled, right? Even though he said he wasn't.
Before I continue, the Dallas Cowboys are often referred to as America's team.
America's team, right? So, and that's your favorite team?
Oh yeah, that's my NFL team.
So Zabi's favorite team is America's team. So yeah, and we're gonna get into that, and we're gonna get into I think we should address Jamel Hill.
Oh, definitely.
Jamel Hill is a young black woman who there's been a lot of sexist issues going around this on ESPN. She's one of the few, probably the only, right, black co-anchor on ESPN. Who's a woman?
One of the few, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Who's a woman?
I think it's just Jamel Hill, Carrie Chapman.
Yeah.
I think they got Sage Steele up out the paint.
Yeah. So So we're gonna talk about Jamel Hill because she is also drawing attention to sports and politics and race and now gender issues as well. So Randall's saying Dallas Cowboys suck.
Randall, what's the team? Is it the Miami cocaine snorters? Because, I don't really know if you can say that.
Well, Randy's from North Carolina, so he might be cheering for the Panthers. So Randall and I went to high school together. So let's we're gonna end it and then we're gonna start again with the second portion of the show. Good night, Kathy. Have a good night.
Oh, night, Kathy.
Thanks for always tuning in. And all right, Randall, you can let us know who your team is in the second part of the show. Oh, he said, go Falcons. Oh, Lord.
Whoa, get off the narcotic.
Wow.
That's drugs.